For the first time in a month, we're going to hit the books alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. I am Brad Powers. This is Hit the Books, college football edition, part of the Hammer Betting Network. And today we are going to be talking college football win totals, widely available, all 133 teams now. Whether it's Group of Five, whether it's Sam Houston State or it's the Crimson Tide of Alabama, you can get a win total on any college football team. And we'll also be talking, I'll give out my best bet as far as win total, widely available. And what y'all have been waiting for is week one college football, 50-plus games between week 0 and week 1. And the man himself, Mr. Detroit Grand Prix, Grand Marshal, he's going to give out his week 1 best bet. Mr. Knish, long time no talk. How you been, buddy?
I tell you, it's good to be back here, my friend. A little bit of lull here in the summer, college football. Got the college bases going, got the the Grand Prix going. I'm having to take the yacht out on the Detroit River to spend the summer. But it's good to be back talking what we want to be talking here. Now I can feel it getting closer, baby. You say we got more lines dropping, we got more numbers dropping, and it feels like we're getting, I don't know what the exact, what are we, 90 days, something like that, August 26th, whatever that is, minus
a little bit less.
Yeah. I can taste the week 0, baby, because it feels close, and I'm, getting ready to go here.
Before we dive into anything, though, let's pay some of the bills here. Keep in mind, Hit the Books brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. And if you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at BetStamp.app/hitthebooks or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it helps support the show. All right, Knish, I'll tell you, buddy, I bet a lot of conference futures today. I put the orders in. We'll see what they look like tonight, but I am officially, I believe, over 250 college football bets already here, June the 5th. That's a record for me. But there's been, they keep releasing stuff earlier and earlier. Still waiting on Vegas, for a lot of stuff here in town. I'll give Circa credit. They released some win totals and some conference futures today. They got a Group of 5 even up, so kudos for them for that. But I'm not done. I probably got 100 more. I got at least 100. The meme, I got one more in me. I probably got 100 more in me before we get kick-started as far as the upcoming season. But how you been? How many bets you got? And, feel free to talk. I'll open the floor to you, man, because I know you probably got some hockey thoughts. You got F1. What is that? Is that Formula One or is it IndyCar?
IndyCar, little Detroit Grand. Formula One might be, for the elite, Europeans and so, the Saudis and all that, the Monacos, the Spanish Grand Prix. IndyCar in the home of the Midwest, baby. They hit Iowa.
What is
they hit
the difference
Ohio,
between F1 and IndyCar? I'm an idiot.
F1, so obviously two different series. F1 definitely more popular at the moment. I think.
Yes, man. That is right. I do drive an F1.
Yeah, F1. Brad's the man of the heartland here. So, F1 is a little bit more of kind of the global experience, whereas IndyCar, pretty much unique, a domestic experience. But hey, it was a good time, baby. Good out there. It was good race. Good to be. In the streets of Detroit. It was the first time they had it in the actual, not on Belle Isle, in the actual streets of Detroit. Had a buddy, got some.
Yeah, good seats, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, had a buddy that works for, Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans downtown. So we got some, VIP passes in there. So hey, we were living it up, with the suits there for a minute. So that was nice to see, but. Back to where, don't let the background fool you, baby. Back to the grind where we belong. Yeah, that's a good comparison. F1 is more of let's just say Joey K needs a few more winners to afford going to an F1 race as opposed to an IndyCar. So we'll see if we can get there.
F1, I think. Is F1 the one that's coming to Vegas in November?
Yes.
All
So
right.
that's going to be you should rent. Put your house on Airbnb for that weekend. You probably pay for your entire college football season here with some of the room rates and the stuff. That is going to be an absolutely wild experience in Vegas. I know they're spending like $100+ million revamping
They got work to do, man. I don't know if they'll finish.
Yeah. Detroit didn't have to put that much money in for the IndyCar race. I'll let you know that. So, but yeah, no, F1 in Vegas is going to be quite the scene.
Looking forward to that. I won't watch it. I'll be betting probably openers. It's a Sunday, right? Or is it Saturday night? Are they running it at night? Because that would be right if they did it
I was
at
going to
night.
say, I thought it was going to be sometime, yeah, depending on where it's at in the world there. But I thought it was going to be a Saturday night in Vegas, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I will be watching college football, so you can count me out for that
We
one.
put it on one of the screens, but hey, we'll get you. Maybe on one of the the Octobox there.
Fair enough. All right. Any big news? College football. It's actually been quiet other than recruiting. There hasn't been too much that have moved the needle as far as a power rating for me. Last time you and I talked, I think there was some breaking news, obviously outside of spring practice, about like Keon Coleman and Peyton Thorne, leaving Michigan State. That obviously moved markets there. Transfer portal closed up, at the end of April, May 1st ish. I mean, I don't think anyone's significantly improved. I think Auburn's done a good job in the portal post-spring. USC did a good job at the line of scrimmage post-spring. But really, it's kind of a dead period other than some recruiting. So since we last talked, I mean, the main thing has been these books opening up some markets and me finally getting down and getting some bets in. And speaking of that, anybody in the chat, if you got a win total that you're thinking about, chances are I probably bet it. I am at over 100 win total bets. So if you need an opinion or a bet on anybody, I'll let you know as far as the win total bets go. In the chat, Ethan Thomason, FAU 8-1 AAC. I could see it, but I didn't make that bet. I like the Tom Herman hire. I like it quite a bit. They got a lot of returning production. I just still think they're behind the two lanes, the SMUs and the Memphises of the world. So I'm not there yet on FAU. I think if there's one team that can win it coming from Conference USA, it's obviously UTSA, in my opinion, even though they lost to Kari Franklin. That would be the big news of this week, Franklin going to Ole Miss. I don't know if it moves my needle, but that's still a big gift for Ole Miss after they lost to Texas A&M transfer kid, the Marshall. They had to kick off the team. Anything that's caught your eye here in the last week or two since I last talked to you, Knish?
No, I was gonna ask you, coming out of the spring portal, what was your biggest, mover or rating adjustment? I agree with you. I don't think we saw, as we're going forward there, the spring portal is kind of like the I lost my job or I don't have a starting spot, so I'm going to reshake. So we've seen a lot of movement. I don't know how much of that movement's really meaningful in terms of ratings or guys that are actually going to contribute. I think it's a lot of depth. Obviously, we've seen Coleman there was the big one we've talked about, but it's interesting. We've seen it's a lot of volume. I don't really know how much of that's going to be super critical in terms of meaning to this season coming up. And if anything, I think it shows a little of like which programs have a little bit of desperation in terms of kind of where you're seeing some panic moves there. I mean, obviously, one we talked about was Alabama moving for Travis Buckner there in terms of like, okay, we know X position group isn't good enough, so we've got to find some guys and hope they stick. And I think we'll learn a little bit more of the results come fall camp and digging through the reports of seeing who's playing, who's not. I will say one team that, and I'll just give you an opinion that year one I am not very very high on, at least in terms of kind of where there is I think Nebraska year one is going to be a real tough
I bet it.
I'm with you there. Like I think you've seen Matt Rule in his stops. He's turned around some absolute dumpster fires, but between, the Satterfield hire on offense and shifting from this, I listened to Bud Elliott, friend of the show, does some of those summer school previews. They're going from the Scott Frost offense to what's very much more of like a pro style. And I think we've seen in college football over the last, when you transition from whether it be, Georgia Tech going from an option to a pro style, or whether, when you go from this is what the concern I have with Wisconsin this year. When you go from like these either drastic shifts in offensive, all of you can portal and you can change, but the crux of the issue is like you have a team that's built for X, and that, we want to run sped, we want to run all over, and you're going to totally shift the mentality. I just don't think Nebraska has the personnel to run, and Jeff Sims to run this pro style offense that they want to transition to. Mixed with that, they just don't have a lot of talent. Their front seven, I think, is going to be really bad. So, I just don't. I've faded Nebraska in a few of the lines that they've had open. I think the win total. So yeah, that was one that at least in the last few weeks that I've tried to get a gauge on. That I don't think Matt Rule year one. I think they're significantly overvalued in terms of what they could be this year.
So I agree. I have taken Nebraska under 6.5. It was plus money. You can't find plus money anymore, but you can still find 6.5. A couple different shops out there. So I think that's worth a bet. I think they're a 6-6 win team at best. Yep. I also Willie Hill Caesars opened that week 1 game 6. I laid 6 with Minnesota. Am I wanting to lay 7.5, 8? I mean, obviously cross through a key number. It's going to be a low total. I'm not as anxious there, but it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it's coming down. I'll put it that way. It's not coming back down through 7.
I think 10's much more likely than 7.
Agree. I hopefully that is the case in that one. Rapid fire some win totals here in the chat. I'll start with cover it. The Buffs under 3.5. Yeah, I think I priced them more as a 3-9 team. I mean, unfortunately, we were right on the show here and gave out under 4.5. So if you're a listener of the show, make sure, because a lot of you aren't. 57% of the viewers viewing it right now aren't subscribed to the channel. So please subscribe. You can find all of our bets.
57% of you freeloading mother, hey, just subscribe to the channel, hit the like button here.
And you can find a lot of our bets, maybe not necessarily season win total bets, but you can find them on BetStamp at Hit the Books HQ. We will have a lot of week 1 bets. So we did on this show give out Colorado under 4.5. That thing moved quick. 3.5, I'd lean that way. I'm not in a race to keep them doubling down on that one. Jacob Duffy in the chat. Just tell me over for Wisconsin. No, I bet under. I bet under 9.
Same thing we just talked about. Just a massive, massive shift in the type of, and I think long term, I tend to lean that way, but the Big Ten West is, I think it's better, and you're trying to totally shift mentalities. Hey, could it all work and everything comes together and it looks great? Sure, but I think likelier than not, that's just not what happens when you go through a massive shift in like what your offensive identity is.
Yeah, and they pull the Buckeyes over. They haven't played the Buckeyes in several years. That's one of their conference games that just goes from a 50-50 game for depending on who you pull over from there to a loss. Texas State win total from Caleb Dusick in the chat. I bet under 4.5. They just got so much. I shouldn't say so much. They don't have anybody really back. They got 0 returning offensive lineman starters. Look, I think the coach is going to be the right hire in the long term. I just think it's so revamped. I know they're going to run a lot of tempo and whatnot, and I know the last coach underachieved greatly, but my goodness, Texas State, when's the last time they won 5 games? So I just don't see it in a first-year coach. I bet under 4.5 there. Widely available. I think there's some disagreement. I've seen some people betting at least over 4 there. Any thoughts on that one? Otherwise, I'll just keep going rapid fire. Knish.
I'm totally with you. I like the guy from UIW. Did some great things there at the FCS level for a program that wasn't traditionally like super. I mean, he took them from like a bargain basement FCS team to a team that was like competing for FCS championships. But I mean, he brought in a couple of Power 5, transfers there, quarterback in Finley, and the other one's escaping. But I agree with you. Like Jake Spavital really, I'd compare it to kind of like a Scott Frostish tenure at Nevada. He wasn't able to bring in the personnel he wanted, or the roster is just really thin.
It's a mess.
Remember,
he didn't do recruiting classes for like a couple years.
Right.
So it's a total mess. So yeah, that was one that, again, under 4.5. Shop around. I think you can find a little bit better than minus 150 when you're tying up your money quite a bit for a long period. Yeah, definitely shop around. I think you get a little bit better juice there. But yeah, 4.5 playable because that is the number I played under 4.5 there. A couple more. Oklahoma State under 6.5. Yeah, I agree with that. I played under 7. I love that bet, to be honest with you. That was one of my favorite bets that I made. But yeah, 6.5 would still be a go for me. I think you and I have talked about it. With all the transfers out of that program, I think we're coming to the end of Mike Gundy. He's done a tremendous job. You look at his track record, you'd say, oh, it's an easy over. When you could look at, his entire tenure there, he's been an automatic 7+ wins for the most part. But I don't see it this year. I think the talent just isn't there what it was even just a couple years ago when they won the Fiesta Bowl over Notre Dame. And I think the conference is very competitive. There's no slam. What's the slam dunk win? Kansas no longer a slam dunk win. I'd even argue that the programs coming in, none of those are slam dunk wins for Oklahoma State, BYU, Houston and Cincinnati. There's really nothing there that they can really hang their hat on, in my opinion. So I'm under 6.5 for me. What say you?
Yeah, that would probably be, and I think we've talked on the show, maybe the biggest Power 5 market disagreement there would be what we thought of Oklahoma State coming into the year, and also some of the teams that transferred into the Big 12, thinking that some of those wins. Cincinnati, UCF opening up 4.5, 5.5. Just teams that I think can come in to a league that was pretty spread out. And even though we both like Texas, that 2 to 14 or whatever isn't significantly. You could feel like any one of those teams can beat any one of those other teams in kind of any week. So I agree with that. That 7 you grabbed there would probably be I will say, in terms of what's the biggest variation from the number, I could see this Oklahoma State season going I don't want to. This isn't first take, so I don't want to do anything. I could see them going 4-8, 3-9. They had a ton of transfers out. Alex Bowman was a guy at Michigan who I thought he was good. Honestly, I'm not even. I thought he was gonna stop playing football and just go be whatever education is pursuing. I can't believe he got a starting job at a Power 5 program. He wasn't even the second. He wasn't even the backup. He wasn't even the backup last year.
He was
the
guy who fifth string.
Yeah, Michigan. They weren't even I literally they were. You would have had to have 3 QB injuries to get to him last year. So, and now he's your starter in the midst of a pretty talented Big 12. I think it could go pretty rough there, So yeah, we'll see. One still would play under 6.5 and not even think twice about it.
Brendan Smith in the chat, Miami under 7.5. The Hurricanes. That's one of the 30 some teams I haven't bet yet. My numbers would say lean under. I just think they're a highly variant team. They play up to their talent level. They can win a lot. They can win 8 games or more. Am I confident in it after what I saw last year? No, but it's just I'm not there yet. I want to lean under, but no. I just think there's better stuff to play out there than Miami. Look, there hasn't been hardly movement on the Canes. They've been 7.5 pretty much everywhere with the under juiced, and I haven't seen hardly any movement there. So I think that one's priced accordingly. One of the very few that have been throughout the course of the spring. Ethan in the chat, Nevada Wolfpack under 4.5, 4. Here's a rare one where I've taken 2 positions. My preferred position was my original one. I bet over 3. Somebody beat me and took 2.5. DraftKings opened 2.5. Wow. And that lasted maybe 15, 20 minutes. I took over 3. I'm very happy with that. I played back a little 4.5, but only maybe 20% of my original position. So my numbers would lean. If you can find that 4.5 would lean under. But again, I'm rooting for over 3. I'll put it that way. Knish, did you bet? Were you part of that Nevada Wolfpack over money to start?
No, I agree with that. I missed that the early 2.5, and obviously that would have been an overplay. Right now, the 3.5, where it's at now doesn't give me too much attract. I think it's pretty well set there. If you want to with the 3.5 juiced over, a team that could make some strides there after the transition, but not one that I'm looking to get too involved in.
Yeah, quickly, I did watch their spring game. They're going to have maybe 10 or 12 Power 5 transfers in the starting lineup, majority of them from Cal and Oregon. They look pretty good, to be honest with you. I think it could be a highly variant team. With that kind of talent level, I'll tell you one of the conference futures that I was looking at. If you can find a juicy number on Nevada to win the Mountain West, are they going to win the Mountain West? No. But them and like Colorado State are two programs in the second year. I would not be shocked to make massive improvements. I mean, that was terrible situations both those coaches entered last year, Colorado State and Nevada. So I'm buying the Wolfpack, at least for right now. Alabama under. Yep, first time in 15 years. I bet an Alabama season win total under. Not only that, I bet against Alabama in a lot of game of the years. Whether it's the Texas game, you were big, I think, against Alabama in the Texas game. Auburn game, I bet against them. I bet against them in the Texas A&M game. I took the Aggies. So not buying Alabama for the first time in forever. I think you agree, Knish, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, they've had, I think they're in a little bit of a midst of not only the quarterback issue we've talked about, but kind of like a talent gap there of, they didn't have up to their standard in terms of recruiting. The last recruiting class was phenomenal, but those guys would always be true freshmen. So you've kind of got a little bit of gap, I think, in terms of talent and stuff, people that have left the program, along with some questionable coordinator hires and quarterback situation. And Saban just getting up there,
Yeah, good point.
I mean, just, we've seen even all the elite coaches, you get to a certain point and it's very, very hard to keep that standard as you get through your 70s. So, we've, and again, this is not a two people that have faded Alabama in years past, like ever going into seasons with a lot of it's one of those. I think they were a bit overvalued in some of the wins markets, the game of the year markets, and they seem vulnerable.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever bet a win total under on Alabama in the Saban era, at least. And I mean, that goes back far enough where I wasn't betting win totals 15 plus years ago. In the chat, Duke under 6.5 wins. Schedule is tougher. Absolutely, that's the handicap there. I mean, I love Mike Elko. Upgraded Duke more than pretty much any team in the last 6-7 years in my power rankings. If you look at start of the season to the end of the season, I thought he did a tremendous job. But they didn't play very many teams last year. And all of a sudden, they didn't play Clemson last year. They didn't play Notre Dame. Didn't play Florida State. I don't think they played Louisville. Now they play all those teams. So I did go under 6.5 wins Duke. I think you still find that. It'll be juiced. As we can see there, up on that's DraftKings under 6.5 minus 140. I would make that bet even with that juice right there. Did you bet Duke?
That's one, that's one that I think we would have a little bit of a disagreement on.
All right.
I'm not running to the window to bet that 6.5 over. I tell you,
if I find 6, I think you can find 5.5, man.
I was going to say 5.5, a juice 5.5. I think I would play the other way. A lot of returning there. Obviously, I love Elko. And again, do they play, at Florida State, at Louisville, Notre Dame? I know those games are all tough. Clemson in the open. That's one that I've got a little market disagreement. I know, you played some 9.5 as it got. There were some 13s there out there that I played a little Duke on. I just think you've got Lafayette, Northwestern, Connecticut, Virginia, Pittsburgh. I think they've got 5 games that I feel really good about. And then you're talking about, if you can get a 5.5, stealing one of those games that there'll be a dog in. So I'm probably higher, definitely higher on Duke than you, but not one that I'm looking to play. I would not play in under 6.5 personally. I think 6 is right about the right number. I'd lean actually towards an over on a juice 5.5.
I'm just going to order in the chat. They're getting hot and heavy here. As far as that, oh wow, looks like whenever we're making a comment on DraftKings, looks like a trader's watching the show. So if you are watching, hello. This is Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network. You're watching the Godfather of summer betting, me, and then the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Joey Knish. Let's look at. We're just going in order in the chat. Penn State over 9.5. Yeah, I lean that way. Have I made that bet? Seems too easy to me.
I really, we talked about the we talked about the offense in the it just gave me. I feel like they're gonna go, and this is just. I feel like they're gonna drop those 2 games and then maybe one more and go 9-3. I just don't, and I know this is the year, the talent, and people are telling you, and some of the public narrative, and this could be the year for Penn State. I'm not there with. I'm not there
either.
I don't want to
make that.
But
I bet against them with West Virginia. We'll talk more West Virginia here in a second. Temple under 5.5 in the chat. By Nick. No, I bet over 4.5. If you want to go under, I believe it's Caesars still has 6. Now you'll have some extra juice. So again, Willie Hill Caesars has 6 if you want to go under, but I'm very comfortable with my over 4.5. That was a team. I'll tell you, I wasn't onto them, but 3 or 4 of the big main betting groups that I really respect or individuals were on Temple at the end of last year like you wouldn't believe. And they were betting them week after week, and they were covering. So I thought the first Drayton, the coach, did a good job last year. And Warner's kid is now going from a freshman to sophomore. They got some guys. And look, it's a watered-down conference. Exit left or exit right. I mean, you got Cincinnati, UCF, Houston out the door. Replace them with Conference USA teams. Who does that help? That helps the Navies, the Temples, the East Carolinas of the world. So that was my original handicap and why I bet over 4.5 on Temple. Did you get involved there?
No, I like your play though. I would lean toward the 4.5. Obviously, I think 6 is a bit too, a bit too aggressive.
Yeah, that's too much.
There, where 5.5 is probably the right number. Again, one where if the 4.5 was still available, would rather that the 6 than that. So a lot of these now, we're trying to still give you the ones that we haven't made. Yeah, a lot of them have just been shaped, and some of them from Mr. Powers himself there. So hey, just obviously that's one that I think 5.5 is the right number.
Alex in the chat, West Virginia 4.5. I did bet over. Now, man, Reed, it seems like I'm higher on West Virginia than just about anybody else because I bet them week 1 against Penn State. That line hasn't moved. It's one of the few that haven't. That stinks. And then, the win total hasn't moved, and almost all my win totals have moved. So there's a lot of resistance to my West Virginia. And I get it. Neil Brown's on the hot seat. I just think, my goodness, if they were really quitting on Neil Brown, they beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma State last year in November at the end of the year. I mean, they're going to quit on the guy. They'd start showing signs of that. The problem with West Virginia, they're playing ridiculous schedules. I mean, they're playing 11 Power 5 teams here. This year, again, they're playing Pitt and Penn State non-conference. I mean, but I think with the newbies into the league, not that they're any surefire wins, but they're on the same power ratings level as a BYU, a Cincinnati, and a Houston. So coin flip games, and look, do I love Neil Brown? No, but I don't think he's as bad as everybody's making him out to be. So, I mean, this ain't the Big East anymore when Rich Rod was beating, Temple and a bunch of bums. I mean, they're playing in a much better conference. And Holgorsen did not leave. I mean, if Holgorsen's so great, let's see what he does with Houston this year in the Big 12. So, I know all the West Virginia fans miss Holgorsen. I mean, I don't know. What say you? I think
Houston would love to return the sender on that contract there that they got him for. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're going to have so many. You're going to see this in the Big 12 where just like so many spreads between 7 and 7, right? Just like where you can go either way. But they would be, a team that they promoted they lost Harold. They promoted the running backs coach to OC. I think they're going to be trying to be a little bit more traditional in terms of like their style. So how that plays, how that affects, I mean, their spread off and throw it everywhere with JT Daniels didn't really look, I mean, it looked good for pieces of certain games, but I don't know. It's one that I would probably bank on more. Even though we backed them in the Penn State game, I think that was just more situationally with Penn State's offense being a bit the style we think West Virginia is going to play. In terms of them as a whole, probably not. I'd probably say that, they win 4 or 5 games and Neil Brown's out.
Yeah, I mean, he plays Holgorsen in Houston and plays that Pitt game. Those are 2 extremely important games in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. He better win one of them, if not both of them, if he wants to survive, in my opinion. Let's keep looking down in the chat. Wisconsin, is it going to be as bad as Michigan first year in Rich Rod? I know it's been 15 years. It will not be that bad.
It will not be that bad. It will not.
They lost to Toledo that year, didn't they? Like a 4-8 Toledo team they lost.
Oh, yeah. They went. Yeah, it was 3-9. And boy, he
won't be that bad.
He still can't walk around Ann Arbor without vulgar and tomatoes being thrown at him. So trust me. That's about as rock bottom as it can get from an offensive change standpoint.
I am waiting on the 30 for 30. I don't think people realize that Rich Rod originally accepted the Alabama job, and this is right before Saban eventually took it. Like that whole week or so there, or 2 weeks there in December on what, went, the Drew Brees failed, physical in Miami. I mean, if he gets Drew Brees, is Saban still coaching the NFL? I think that whole process there in 2007, I'd like to see a 30 for 30. I'd like to see 2 30 for 30s. Number one on the Alabama hire in 2007. And number two, I'd like to see a 30 for 30 on the 2007 college football season. It's been long enough at this point. So it's just a request. Let's go to the chat. Hugh Freeze down on the Plains. That's one I haven't bet yet. I am a little bit more optimistic than most, but man, 6.5, 7 seems about right to me. I still think they're way behind. Obviously, Alabama and LSU in that division, but still even behind Ole Miss and Texas A&M. He's going to be the right guy. I just don't know if it's going to necessarily show in a big way this year. I think it'll show as far as them being competitive. I just don't know if they're going to jump up from 5-7 to 8-4ish this year. Did you bet Auburn yet?
No, I'd kind of lean under at that. I think with all the turnover there, and a lot of talent on the still remaining on the roster, a team that kind of is never barren for players. But I just think the division they're playing, a number of those teams that we've been bullish on, whether it be LSU, Texas A&M, it's going to be it's just going to be tough for them. I mean, even if being down on Alabama, I don't think that's they're that vulnerable. So yeah, they got their guy in Hugh Freeze, but just like we talked about with a little bit of what Alabama did with the concern. I mean, having to go on the last day of the spring portal and basically steal Michigan State's QB.
Good point. Makes
me a little bit if you're doing that, then that means you definitely weren't set. So then that's putting a lot on a guy in Peyton Thorne who was kind of an okay Big Ten quarterback at times. That I think it's a lot to chew for you to get to 7-5 year one.
He has done a good job in the portal. Line of scrimmage needed a lot of help. Did a good job there. There's a lot of he did a good job filling out the roster. It's just they're still so far behind a lot. Half the teams probably in the SEC. So he's going to have to win all the games he's supposed to and maybe pull off an upset or so. So yeah, not a great one for me. I haven't bet it. Tennessee 9.5. That's another one I haven't bet. I would certainly lean under 9.5. But it's juiced that way. I mean, a lot of minus 150 plus juice on that. I think it's a 9-3 type of team, but I think that one's priced accordingly. Did you bet Tennessee under?
No, I'm probably a little bit more.
I know we're getting a lot of the ones I haven't bet. Top of college football, I would say.
I'm pretty bullish going into the transition for Tennessee. I don't know if it'll be as drastic. I know they lost some great NFL talent there, but it's kind of feel like they have got it about rolling there and Knoxville. So I didn't place a bet on 9.5, but if you're gun to my head, I would lean for an over there. I think they'll be all right, and kind of that system is a plug and play with Joe Milton in terms of that. So I kind of like where the program's heading, and they're not short on talent at all.
I did bet Milton to win the Heisman 40-1. That was one bet I made on Tennessee this year. I just think it's plug and play. He's got the arm talent. Is he going to be as accurate as Hendon Hooker? No. But, I think NFL scouts, if you loved Anthony Richardson, you're going to love Joe Milton. So, a guy can throw it 80 yards. I watched their offense. I don't think people realize, how disparate those splits are. It's a very unique offense, and it's tough to practice it in a week. So be interesting as we go through the years, at least the teams in the SEC, if they're going to do a better job of defending it. The only team to figure them out last year was Georgia, obviously. Alabama certainly didn't. Neil in the chat, how much of the rule changes of clock running and blocking outside the tackle boxes affect your analysts and handicapping? That affects it quite a bit. I'm not willing to say how much I think it's worth to the totals yet until the totals get released in week one. My assumption is it's not going to be properly priced. It is worth something. It is greater than 0. It's greater than 1 as far as the running clock. Blocking outside the tackle box, it gives me hesitancy to bet the service academies. I can tell you that. I'm anxious to see what they do, and we're already hearing it. They're wanting to transition to throwing a lot more, both Army and Navy. Air Force already is throwing a little bit more than the other two academies, so I'm not sure it affects them as much. But, yeah, it just there's a little more reluctancy in me and betting over on win totals unless they're severely mispriced on the service academies. What do you think, Knish?
No, I agree. I think you'll see a minor, like I said, minor total impact. Not anything nuts there. But one that maybe I guess we'll cross our fingers and hope for maybe a little bit of a over adjustment or one thing or two. So yeah, that's one that we'll probably get into once more totals are released.
Once we get to the season, my assumption is I'm gonna bet almost every total on the board. I'll say I'll probably have more unders, but there are some definite spots where there's where teams are going to go heavy tempo where I don't think they're going to be appropriately priced, at least early on. So that's the next thing I'm chomping at the bit to bet. Paul in the chat, what do we think of Trent Dilfer at UAB? Hate. I don't use the word hate too much. Hate the hire. I just, for everything that Bill Clark built in that program the last 5-6 years, I just think to throw it away with a guy like Trent Dilfer, it's abysmal in my opinion. So under 5.5 is what I bet. I took a couple positions there under 5.5. Did you fade UAB? It looks like I wasn't alone because I didn't get the best of the number on that one. I think there were some early 6s at DraftKings.
Yeah, I agree. It feels very what I would call like Herm Edwards-ish in terms of like the guy really like you hired somebody off TV because he talks about football a lot and really doesn't have the credentials there that you want in coming in to be like a running a program that's been pretty damn good for a few years. So yeah, I'm not bullish on. I think it's one that you could see some instant regression there. So I didn't bet it like as you said. I would have taken the best. I didn't get the best of the number there, so I've left it alone. But yeah, not bullish on the long term Trent Dilfer future.
I want to say Zach Phillips is doing a tremendous job today, bouncing from screen to screen as far as
he's refreshed. He had that Canadian holiday, a couple weeks off.
Yeah, he's fresh.
The Leafs have been on. He's finally got a few consecutive days sober. So I'm impressed as well. It's good, nice to have him. And hey, you better get the what's pro line. Better get the pro line runs lined up. So because we'll have him working.
Fair enough. BYU first year in the Big 12. Justin in the chat. I faded it at 6. I bet under. I just think there's an adjustment period. I mean, they struggled. This is a program that would struggle when they're playing Power 5 teams 4-5 a year. As far as what they've been playing in the independent schedule. The 1 year they don't play 4 or 5 Power 5 teams, 2020, they kill everybody. That was the Zach Wilson, COVID year. I just think they're not there yet. Can they play bully ball with a few teams? Maybe, and that might be the case. A couple games in the Big 12 this year, but they got Arkansas non-conference play. I think that's a loss on the road. Arkansas went into Pro Bowl last year, and you saw the talent disparity there. So I think it's kind of a 5-7 first season. I do like the Jay Hill hire at defensive coordinator, but I'm fading BYU. Did you jump on that one?
I agree with you. Yeah, I actually took a little BYU under myself. I think they lost a couple some of the talent left this year, and I think they're again going into the Big 12. I think it feels like the recipe for success in terms of having a lot of older players able to play bully ball, able to kind of mix and match the schedule as they wanted to. I just don't know how well that's gonna pop off here year one in the Big 12. They feel like the one team that's gonna have more of a difficult adjustment for me than I think some of the others. So yeah, I'm not bullish on BYU either, and also they're some of the staff and stuff that feels a little stale to me. So yeah, they were one that
you're not buying Slovis.
No. I don't buy that as well. So yeah, I agree with you on the fade.
Let's keep going in the chat, and we'll go another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get the best bets here. Keep in mind, guys, we're going to be doing conference previews. We're going to do like a 15-20 minute conference preview videos. Knish, myself, and Zach will be producing, so we'll do that. We'll obviously have this thing going on. We'll probably do a couple more episodes in between. We do those conference previews, and then we'll start up with this show in August. So we'll get to a lot today, but keep in mind it's still only June, so we don't have to get to every team between now and then. All right, a little break. College bases. Are you betting college baseball, Knish? Dane in the chat.
Hey, we've been firing on a lot of college baseball. I will.
There you go.
Unfortunately, I think everything there's what do we got? 3 games left tonight. Let me see. Hold on. Let me give you a current there. I think Duke at like minus. See, there were better numbers out there. I think Duke, if he can find like looks like minus 110 is the best available out there. Worth a small play. But that's about it for tonight. Everything else kind of moved. Even Texas A&M at plus 115 a DK is okay. So, but again, smaller plays. A lot of the stuff moved earlier in today. So Duke and Tamu, just for quarter unit, half unit, if you want some action in the college basis tonight.
Look at that. Let me ask you this, because I'm just intrigued by it. Because I look at Don Best and I see like a couple years ago, few books had him posted. Now every book pretty much has college baseball posted. What are the limits like? And I'm guessing if you follow it closely, this very beatable sport. Is it something that I should be looking at, or I should be at least going to guys like yourself and betting? Is it something worth my while?
Once you get into the college like World Series, what they call it, the NCAA College Baseball Championship, and then when it gets down to 8 teams, it's the College World Series. That's full on the screen. The limits are way better. Obviously, anything before this regular season or that, it's pretty slim. But once you get into this, I will say, there's been some groups out there that I know that are well known that have really struggled on the college basis.
All right. Wow. All right.
I mean, I will. It's one that you would think the sport maybe it has a lot of variance, a lot of adjust. So it's one that I will say that it's kind of a tougher nut to crack than you'd think. But I think limits wise, at least for the College World Series and that, it's much more respectable and easier to get down on than any of the stuff previous, whether it be regular season or conference tournament.
Fair enough. Dane in the chat. We'll go back to him. Missouri 6.5. Oof. Haven't bet it. That's one I haven't bet. I probably lean under. I didn't get a good. Their spring game was canceled, so that kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. I didn't get a good look there. Got a good kid at defensive line number 6. Robinson's a good kid. I'm anxious to see what they end up at quarterback. They brought in Garcia from Miami. They got a young kid, Sam Horn, I think his name is, and then obviously got Brady Cook from the last couple of years. I don't know. I know they got that Kansas State game in non-conference. They're hosting Kansas State. It'll be a big swing game early on for them. Haven't bet it yet. Have you, Knish, Mizzou?
Nothing on me. I'd lean a bit on. I think Eli. I
can agree with that.
Yeah, it's not a huge fan of. But I would agree. It would be an under or nothing for me. I haven't withdrawn him, but I am not a big fan of this. Even though they seem to be kind of tied to him. It's an under or nothing for me on Mizzou.
We hit Auburn. Haven't bet it yet, but we talked about them a little bit earlier. Make sure you're listening, like and subscribe. 57% of you have not subscribed. And I mean, I got a phone call before the show, and Rob and Moretto are on, and they're like, you got to promote. 57% of these people have not subscribed. So I'm not doing my job. They said, I'm on the hook. If I can't get that, under 50%, I'm in trouble. So, all right. I'm just saying, if you value my job here, maybe y'all don't. I mean, I know Knish is the star, but let's keep going here, Mike.
How's Joey Monaco gonna attend all these races without the bankroll here? So yeah, no, we need a little bit of hype here.
You know what? Any week 0-1 lines still available that are bettable? Yeah, I'm waiting. I'll give you inside info. I was at Circa over the weekend. Knish can talk about this because he was giving me a hard time. It was I stopped and had one drink, big deal. But I was talking to Jeff Benson. He thinks they're going to put up week 1, the 14th, June 14th. I'm sure they'll have their own opinion. So that's kind of what I'm waiting on. I really don't want to put too much out there. So in case they do have a disparity of opinion, I can pounce a little bit more. Do I think there's a lot of stuff that's off a half point, a point-ish? Certainly. I mean, I bet half the board in week 1. Do I think it's as bad as last year where I thought there was like a half dozen games that ended up being a touchdown off? No, unfortunately, I don't see that this year. We haven't seen much movement at all. Saw a little bit of money on Illinois, a little bit of money on Cal. I might have been responsible for that. And then them two numbers getting destroyed. But other than that, no. I can tell you before the show what I bet. Caesars, I saw they hung Tennessee, Virginia 28.5. I hate Virginia, but I mean, I took 28.5 with Virginia. I thought that got a little expensive. I bet that before the show. And I took 17 with Colorado State home against Washington State. I like Washington State's higher. I just think Colorado State's going to be much improved. At home, getting 17. And obviously that was just playing stuff that was a half point higher than anywhere else in the market. Obviously there's still going to be a bettable week 0-1 game because Mr. Knish tease in about 10 minutes is going to give you a week 1 best bet. There you go. That's how we do it in the business.
Hey, that's why you are one of the best in the business, my man. They don't get you. That's why they pay the big bucks, baby.
Mike, Texas Tech under 7.5. I can tell you, I'm not Joey Guns. I bet over 7. I like Tech. Did you bet? Do you think under 7.5 is good?
There's been, so that's one. There's been a lot of respect in the market for Texas Tech. I know their future prices come down a ton. I know you bet at 7.5
on the show here. I bet we bet 20-1 to win the Big 12.
Yeah. I know. You're bullish on the Tech. I think we've reached what I would call the apex for me in terms of the numbers that are out there now. I wouldn't touch anyone, to be honest with you. Gun to my head, I'd be going the opposite way. I think they've again should be improved, could be a contender, but getting a lot of respect for a team that we've said it 4 times on the show today that the Big 12 is going to be very competitive top to bottom.
And I bet 7 because I thought, again, a lot of my bets aren't, I think I have some significant edge. It's just the individual book giving me that edge. You're going to give me a win, and I'm not paying extra juice for it. Give me it. A half win for me is worth 70 cents. So that's a lot of my bets are like that. If you're going to go off, you got to respect the market. If a market's been out there for a while and you're going to, I don't care who you are, even if you're Circa, they hung a couple teams like a win off compared to what the rest of the market was. I'm gonna fade you if it's been out for a while. So, all right, fair enough there. Is that a tease for your bet? Week 1 best bet? We'll get back to that. Texas Tech. Any Pac-12 bets other than Colorado? Certainly. I thought USC over 9.5 was really good. I know it's very square. But I bet that over 9.5. Probably one of my favorites was an under 3.5 on Stanford plus money. I think you still find 3. That's a bad football team. The worst group of 5 team in the country. Oregon State, I think I took a little over 8. Cal over was probably my biggest position. Over 4.5 at plus money. I bet it multiple times. They changed the juice on me 10, 20 cents. Didn't care. That was my favorite bet, over 4.5 on Cal. So, yeah, I'm involved in the Pac-12. What's some of your Pac-12 bets?
Yeah, I will say, again, I don't even think I was able to. Mr. Portnoy opened up some futures that, I would say a month ago, that were quite off market in terms of the prices on a couple of teams. So, got some Pac-12
Win
conference
totals?
futures. No. We got conference futures. There might have been a 40-1 on Oregon State, and some inflated numbers on a Washington and.
Still?
No, they're long gone now. But that would be my Pac-12 action. In terms of win total, I agree with your hey, I know. Now I will say, talking with some other, I know that you're a very bullish man on Cal. Hearing from a couple of others in the industry, maybe not so much. We'll see here. We'll see who ends up being right. Not a Joey K opinion. I'm just trying to throw some gas on the fire here. So we'll see. I know
that's fine. I'm okay with it. I'm very comfortable. So I think there is going to be some resistance. I know there's going to be some resistance because week 1 people can't understand how can you lay points on the road. Cal, not the same team, not the same offense. So did you watch the spring game when Sam Jackson's out there running around like Johnny Football? But then you'd be like, oh, this ain't Ethan Garber's back there at quarterback for the last couple of years. You'll see. So all right. I'm very comfortable. If anybody wants to fade my Cal position, I'll continue to bet it. That's how comfortable I am with Cal. Let's keep it going here. Maxwell in the chat, Mississippi State under 6.5. I think that's the right side, and we're finally starting to see some money there. I think, look, I like Zach Arnett, the head coach, but I think he's in a little over his head. Obviously wasn't expecting to get a job. but because of what happened, unfortunately, with Mike Leach, they were really put in a bad position there. I mean, I'm not sure what I would have done if I was Mississippi State, but I think I think Mississippi State's that one school in the West where I could see really struggle, even though they have 8 home games and I think they have 4 layups. I could still see a Mississippi State team maybe even going like 1-7, 2-6 in conference. So I'm going under 6.5 Mississippi State. I haven't bet it yet, but I think that's worth it. What say you?
Yeah, I'd lean that way too. As you said, they're not a team that kind of prints talent there at Mississippi State, and it's been kind of a struggle to get them back to what they had in with the January day. So for me, it would be an under or nothing. I haven't same one that I haven't invested in, but if I'm getting the minus 110 there on 6.5, it would be under or nothing for me.
Tom in the chat, just a few more before we get the best bets. What do you think of the few totals of week 1 FanDuel has released? I bet almost all of them. Most of them were under positions. So you take that for what it's worth. So there you go. I mean, you don't have to be Elon Musk to figure some of this out. So to connect the dots there. they took them off, a lot of them off the board. So I'll put it that way. Let's keep it going here. Who do you like in the SEC Conference Championship? I bet futures. This is going to be shocking. Wait for this. Drum roll. This is where I bet futures. I bet Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Any one of those 3 win, I win money. So that's what I bet today. So, I mean, if a long shot comes out of nowhere and beats me, so be it. Now, Knish had a really good future on this show. You got to be listening. That if there was one long shot I would have bet, it would have been that Texas A&M 30-1 that you offered up about 2 months ago.
Yeah, I agree. And now, but as you say, like there hasn't been anything close to that. And to me, I don't want to oversimplify, but I agree. Like I think that Georgia plus 105 is like again they're going to win the East.
Yeah,
and then you're talking about a SEC title game where do you think like what's the least amount that you would think they'd be favored by? A field goal in that game. So, yeah, I think you can get Georgia plus money there and you want to, again, but I mean, if it's a financial decision for you, do you want to tie up money for 6 months on a plus 105? That's a decision, but that's the only bet that I would make right now at a lot of those current prices, especially the ones we're looking at, would be the Georgia plus money there.
Circa had plus 120 on Georgia today and plus 325 on Alabama. I like those prices. I'll put it that way. So
yeah,
those were good enough to tie up money. I can put it that way. I think it's chalk heavy. And for the most part, I mean, look, we had a bunch of long shots win conference title games a couple years ago. I just think for the most part, college football is chalky. I mean, certainly there'll be 1 or 2 that surprise this year and come out of nowhere. I'm guessing more group of 5 conferences. If there's a conference where somebody shocks somebody, might be like the Big 12, which you said is balanced. Yeah. But even then, I still think Texas, man, on paper is better than everybody else by a margin too. Let's keep it going here. We just talked about Arnett and Mississippi State. Nebraska earlier, under 6.5 minus 135. I would still lay the juice on that under 6.5 minus 135. I think that's still bettable. If I didn't have any position yet on them, I would bet that. I mean, I think there's at least 25 cents or more edge there. So what say you, Knish, on that?
Yeah, totally. That's one that, and I know you've bet a lot more. That's one that I've invested in myself. Is a Nebraska under, so I'd still be fine with my minus 135 there. I don't see them getting to 7 in year 1. I not to be like, but I'd be more. I think they're likelier to win like 4 than 7. So yeah, it'd be an under for me. Still.
Any hockey tonight from Crestman? Golden Knights or Panthers?
You know what? Of course, in Vegas there was actually some attractive Panthers series prices with all of the books shading, and then they lose week 1. So I'm underwater there on Panthers series prices at the moment. That was able to get some pretty good numbers that are no longer any good. So yeah, it would be at current prices. It's Panthers or nothing there. Especially there's some like over 2-1 right now. Super even series. That to me, that you can only bet Florida right now.
Let's do 2 more in the chat, and then we'll get the best bets. James Madison, a big drop off at quarterback. I'm not sure. I mean, I can tell you, DraftKings opened up 7. That's one of my very biggest positions over 7. I don't think the market properly priced, including myself last year, James Madison, and I think they'll be just fine. I mean, I know they're in a very competitive Sun Belt, but I made that line 8, so I thought it was a win off. So I don't think there'll be that big of a drop off there. I'm a big fan of the coach. I'm a big fan of the overall culture there. They just came in like hit the ground running, much like what we saw from App State and Georgia Southern in the Sun Belt. Really good FCS teams can jump right in and compete right away at the G5 level in college football. Did you bet any James Madison?
I know, but I will say last year, like Todd Centeio being like a like pretty good G5 quarterback was maybe the most surprising of like quarterback changes that I'd say. I was a guy who I did not think was frankly a good player coming into the season and would have been like the one holdback that I saw for JMU going into last year. And he was fine. And they would have won this if they were eligible. They would have won the Sun Belt title. And they were the best team in the Sun Belt. So yeah, they seem to be having no issues. So I don't think there'll be I mean, I don't know how they were able to get Centeio to be like a good QB. So no, until they're one of those that I think you give the current staff and the program the benefit of the doubt as opposed to the opposite way.
Racking my brain, I think they'll be fine at quarterback. I can't think of his name. I think they're getting a transfer. They'll be fine at quarterback. I got some inside there, so I'm not going to say too much, at least right now. Dane, thoughts on first non-quarterback draft in 2024? I mean, obviously, I think Harrison deserves to be the favorite, but I'm not tying up my money that long. I think there's so many college football positions for this season that I'd rather tie up my money on than to have that one go all the way into April, because so much can change. It's so narrative driven. I don't know who's drafting up at the top and whatnot. Obviously, you think Caleb, Marvin Harrison, Drake May are right there. It should be the top 3, but I mean, that stuff changes constantly. Hell, you could have gotten, I mean, just in the weeks leading up to this year's draft, I mean, if you played it at the right time, you could have got plus money on Bryce Young to go first. I mean, so I just think don't tie your money up in that. That would be my recommendation there. Georgia, we'll close with that. Over 11.5 plus money. You can find 11 at if you want to lay some juice, 11 at Willie Hill Caesars. That's one I didn't bet again. I just thought it's priced right. I mean, I would have probably made, I think there might be 20, 30 cents there, but I'm not there yet. What say you?
Yeah, I got nothing for that, for me on that one. I agree. I'm kind of leaning on the price right there. Is like, I'm not going into it with, to get in there, Georgia. So I agree with you.
All right, I'm going to get to my best bet win total here as we're wrapping up the show here. We're going to go an hour. So, again, if you have other win totals, we'll get to them. I mean, I thought we got to a hell of a lot today, to say the least. So, win total for me, it's widely available. We're going to the MAC. I'm going to go over 6.5 Miami, Ohio. That is exactly what I bet was over 6.5 wins. I laid about 110. I think you can find minus 130. So, you haven't lost too much as far as the juice there on that game. What am I seeing? Let's start off with the MAC period. I think obviously in that division, Kent State's way down. So they go from being a 50-50 game to a win in division there. I think Akron will be better, but I think BG will be worse. Ohio will be about the same, maybe a little bit better this year. Buffalo, I think, downgrade a little bit. So I think all in all, the fact that they pull a Western Michigan team from the other division, I think that's a positive because Western Michigan's way down this year with a first-year coach. They get Toledo at home. I got Miami, Ohio favored in 8 games. Does that mean I make their win total 8? No, but my pure power rating makes it closer to 7. You're going to give me 6.5. I'm going to go over 6.5 wins here on Miami, Ohio, who, keep in mind, was playing a freshman quarterback for most of last year. Gabbert's back. The freshman is now a sophomore, and they bring in a Colorado transfer. So they are going to be much better at quarterback than they were a year ago. And then plus, I already think it's one of the MAC's best defenses. So, and another thing I'll say, they have 2 easily winnable games non-conference. They usually don't do well in non-conference, but Massachusetts and an FCS school should be 2 wins. And Chuck Martin has had winning records in MAC play for most of his tenure. I think he's 33-17 his last 7 years in MAC play. So I think they can win those 2 non-conference games, at least go 5-3 in MAC play. You do the math. 5 + 2, 7. We got a winner here, over 6.5.
Brad is the Mac Daddy, says Greg. I love it. We should have had some return of the Mac queued up here. That's my fault for not getting the audio for Zach Phillips there ready to go. Because yeah, I like that. I like that as well, and I agree with you. And we might be going to the Mac for the week 0 play as well, my friend.
Well, I'll tell you what, you let it into it. It's the moment you guys have all been waiting for. First one we've given out pretty much for the most part, at least here. That's going to be widely available. Very first, week 0, week 1 bet from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. Fire away, buddy. What are we betting here as I get my apps out?
You're going to go week 0 here, Saturday, August 25th. And you know what? It's a Mac Fiesta, baby. Brad's going over on the win total. I'm going Ohio. You can go now. There's basically between 4.5 to 5.5 out there, and this is based on what I've seen early with the Rourke reports that he looks good. Obviously, number one, he didn't transfer. Number two, he's doing stuff already from the ACL last year. Think he'll be ready for the season. It's a San Diego State team that one is coached by Brady Hoke. Two, lost a lot of, I think, their identity in terms of being able to run the ball and all that. And again, they were able to change kind of the scheme there with Maven, the new quarterback, in that. But it's a team that I don't think has their defensive identity anymore. An Ohio team, bring a lot back. Still think for a MAC team here, going a lot of 10. Now, do I love, MAC on the road, non-con? Was that normally, an area that I'd be, jumping all over? No, but it's another, opponent there that I think talent-wise they can compete with. I think as long as Rourke is good to go, they'll have the much better QB. I think the roster's comparable. This, to me, is a game that I was surprised to see open in the 5.5 range there. So I bet some 5.5. I bet some 4.5. I think it's good to 3. And one that there's still, plenty of +5s out there. I think DK has 5.5. Still a number of 4.5s at Willard Hill Caesars. One that for me I thought should be a field goal, especially if Rourke re-aggravates his injury, hurt something, his knee, going into spring, then obviously that changes things because as we saw last year at the end with CJ Harris, he is not the level of quarterback. But for me, I think as long as Rourke plays in this game, they're very, very live to win it and win it outright. And anything over a field goal, I like quite a bit. What say you here on this one?
I have not bet that yet. I'm a little mad at you because I was hoping we were going to get like maybe a 6. 5 is a dead number. Where are we going? We going up? We going down? I mean, I definitely agree with your position here. I was just waiting to get a 6 and I was going to fire away, but other than that, a tisk at a number like that. Other than that, man, I agree. I'm not a Brady Hoke fan. I mean, look no further than the bowl game. I thought it was one of the worst coaching jobs I saw in all last year, and I watch a lot of games, folks. Believe it or not. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. When they got up 14 in the bowl game, they could have literally taken a knee on every offensive play and might have won the game. But instead they throw it 40 times. And it was as bad as I've seen anybody coached all year in any game. And I wasn't just saying it because I had San Diego State in pocket. It was abysmal. I mean, to lose a game when your opponent has minus 66 yards rushing is just unfathomable to me. So, yeah, I think Rourke's healthy, running around. I even like the Harris kid, to be honest with you. I thought he did okay. I think they performed well. You saw him already stack up against a very similar Mountain West team in Wyoming in the bowl game, and that was without Rourke, and Ohio was able to win that game. San Diego State doesn't have the run game that they used to have, so the fact that Ohio's lost a couple of their defensive tackles doesn't worry me as much. I bet Ohio over their win total. So I'm pretty bullish on Ohio, so no disagreement. I think you're on the. I'm just pissed. I was looking. I see the best of numbers at DraftKings. I couldn't get down. I was looking to see what Willie Hill had, but kudos to you, man. Hopefully we move that line.
Yeah, no, I think as you said, as long as Rourke's healthy, I think that's a good bet to get in now, and one that I think we'll see continue to trend down.
Yeah, I think it closes 3-ish. To be honest with you,
I agree.
Yeah, that's what my anticipation is. So I think you got a really good bet there, Knish. Good job. Not that you need a good job from me. Any closing thoughts here before we wrap up the show?
No, I think it was good. We went a lot to catch up on here, so it was good to get back into it. And I know we'll be doing like I said, those conference previews. That'll be people be on the lookout for. And hey, I can start to taste it now. It's getting closer, and excited to see what's happening in fall camp and continue to fire away.
Guys, make sure that you're subscribed to the Hit the Books YouTube channel so that when you get notified in real time whenever a new episode drops or we go live. If you do enjoy our content, please smash the like button. If you're listening in audio form, please rate and review it 5 stars. I'll tell you what, for the man, the myth, the legend himself, we got a ton of info out there. You'll probably have to re-listen it to catch up on all the notes and everything, all the bets. For the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. For our outstanding producer, Zach Phillips. I am Brad Powers, and for all our show updates, make sure you're following Hit the Books and at the Hammer HQ on Twitter. That'll do it. You just listen to Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network.